Happy May 19th. You know, I have to say, it was a very genius way for WWE to promote that movie, See No Evil, all those many years ago. Here we are. I know I'm not the only one still talking about this movie 15 years later. Can you believe it? 15 years ago. Jacob Goodnight slaughtered all of those people in See No Evil. May 19th. Even if you didn't go see the movie, I'll bet anything that you knew exactly when that movie was coming out. Still talking about it today. Made $18 million on a budget of $8. I'd call that a success. This is your AEW Dynamite review for May 19, 2021. I am the Solomonster. Hope everybody is having a great night, and thank you for choosing me, as always, for your Dynamite coverage. We got some big TV news to talk about. We had huge breaking news earlier today from Warner Media. I'm sure most of you have heard the news by now. But there's some conflicting reports about what's going to be on what network when. I'm going to boil it all down for you here in just a little bit. We're going to go through all the big announcements. We're going to talk about this show tonight, which I thought was good. Thought it was a good show on the build, on the road to Double or Nothing, which is coming up not this weekend, but next weekend. Hit that like button. Hit that thumbs up. Also, hit that subscribe button if you are not already a subscriber of this channel. I know many of you in the chat are. I see a lot of familiar faces. But again, if you would like to receive notifications about when I go live and other new content, there's always new content going up on the channel. Please, again, hit that sub button. And channel memberships are open. Super chats are open. You'll see them popping up on your screen throughout the night. I'm going to read all of your super chat questions and comments about tonight's show, about today's big news. I'm sure a lot of you have questions, so send them on in. And I promise you that as we go along here, we will get to all of that. So let's start with the TV news. Warner Media dropped the bomb today, announcing that AEW Dynamite is going to be changing homes starting in January of next year, January of 2022, moving from TNT to sister station TBS. Still on Wednesday nights, still 8 p.m. Eastern time. The time is not changing. The day of the week is not changing. It is Wednesday Night Dynamite, just on a different network. TNT will instead air 4 annual AEW specials. So TNT is not totally getting out of the wrestling business. They will still have some limited wrestling content on their channel 4 times a year. They didn't say exactly when it would start. I assume first quarter of next year, but again, they didn't specify that today. So it sounds like it'll be an arrangement very similar to what the old WCW Clash of the Champions shows used to be. Those were quarterly events. You know, Saturday Night's Main Event back in the day was not quarterly. They aired, more than that. But my sense is that this is not replacing any existing pay-per-views. These are going to be supplemental shows, not, special episodes of Dynamite. Kind of somewhere in between a Dynamite and a pay-per-view. Or like having a free pay-per-view, a free pay-per-view on television. So that's going to be 4 times a year. And I don't know if these are going to be new shows, if this is going to be shows like they have themed events like Fyter Fest, Beach Break. Those shows perhaps could migrate over to TNT as a quarterly special. Again, they didn't give all the information yet, but this is what we know right now. The other big news is that we finally have a name. Finally have a name and a premiere date for the long-anticipated second AEW show. We've heard so much about this second show, and the pandemic hit. Remember, they signed that TV contract in January of last year. So within a couple of months, we were in COVID hell, and whatever plans they may have had last summer or last fall for a second TV show went to the wayside. So we've been hearing about it. It's in the contract. It's going to happen. It's not going to be on YouTube. It's going to be on TNT, but we didn't know anything. Well, now we know. And the second show is going to be called AEW Rampage. It is going to be debuting on Friday, August 13th at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Friday the 13th. Immediately after SmackDown. It'll be a 1-hour series from 10 to 11 on TNT. So a nice length. I like that. 60 minutes, in and out, doesn't overstay its welcome. I like the 1-hour format. I kind of wish NXT was still in the 1-hour format on the WWE network. Once they went to 2 hours, the show really it just wasn't the same as it used to be. But here's the key. So I see some conflicting information on Twitter, which is not a great resource of information. Unless, of course, it's at Solomonster. Then you can trust the information. But there's a lot of people saying that, well, Dynamite is moving to TBS, and so this new show is debuting on TNT. That'll be on TNT. And that's true. Rampage is going to be on TNT through the beginning of next year. When Dynamite moves to TBS, Rampage on Friday nights will be moving to TBS as well. So the only thing that will be on TNT starting next year will be the quarterly specials. Otherwise, all of this other televised content is migrating over to TBS. So even though it's going to premiere on TNT, it's going to be short-lived on the network over there. So my hopes have been dashed. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that my hope was that the second show would be on a Saturday at 6:05 on TBS. Little callback to the old mothership days of Saturday night. I know that 6:05 is not prime time. It's probably not the time of day that the network executives are necessarily going to put a major show in that time slot, but my hopes have been dashed. There will be no 6:05 wrestling on TBS, unfortunately. I guess the other reason also, they traditionally run their pay-per-views on Saturdays, so the pay-per-views recently have been on Sundays, but it was never meant to be a permanent thing, and in fact, they are going back to doing Saturday pay-per-views very soon. So if you have a Saturday pay-per-view, then why would you have a TV show on a Saturday night? Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but I guess there was never really any chance of that happening anyway. Tony Khan talked to the New York Post. This is what he had to say. While we are looking forward to our arrival on TBS, we are not saying goodbye to our original and current home of TNT, which will air 4 new special supercard events annually, plus the financial and this is the key here. This is the key part of the quote. After I read this, I said, this right here is the key part of the quote. The financial upside to our new agreement, keyword new agreement, will give us the opportunity to continue to invest in and grow AEW to serve the most important people in our industry, our fans, our wrestlers, our staff, and our sponsors. So it sounds like AEW is getting more money out of this deal. And that would be a big positive. There's really no other way to say it. If they're going to get more money, if they're going to get a lot more money out of this, we don't have a dollar amount at this point. PW Insider said the word going around internally is that AEW is getting somewhere in the area of an 8-figure payday from Warner Media. I assume that is above and beyond the existing money they're already getting from their current contract. An 8-figure amount is no small amount of money. I would think that whether it's in the Observer or Deadline.com, in a matter of days, we're probably going to have a sense of what that number is. But right now, it looks like it could be as high as somewhere in the 8-figure range. Now, as far as the networks, TNT, TBS, and I didn't even know this. I had assumed that TBS was in slightly fewer homes than TNT. Not the case. TBS is actually in about 1 million more homes than TNT is. That does not mean, of course, that there's going to be 1 million more people watching Dynamite every week, but you certainly don't want to move to a network that has, is in fewer homes than the place that you just came from. This is a problem that TNA has been through many, many times over the years. TNA went from Spike TV, which is in, I'm going to say, back when they were on Spike, probably between 80 and 85 million homes. They went from being on Spike to being on a combination of Pop TV, Destination America, cable access. I mean, they were all over the place. So wherever you're going to move to, you certainly do not want to be in a place where fewer people are going to have access to your show. And that's not the case here. So that's a good thing. If you are an AEW fan, that is the news you want to hear. You do not want to hear that AEW is going to be on a less than network that's in 10, 20, 30 million fewer homes. TBS is actually in more homes than TNT. Although TBS feels like a bit of a dead network. I was trying to think of what is the biggest current offering on TBS. What would be their biggest show? Would it be Wipeout? I know when Wipeout re-debuted a while back, the John Cena version, it premiered to about 1 million viewers. And I think it's gone down since then. But is there any series on TBS right now that is getting more viewers than Wipeout, or is Wipeout their biggest show? TBS does not have a lot of hits. They do show a lot of reruns of sitcoms and cartoons and things of that nature. So it is kind of a dead network in that way. They're not known for charting, a whole bunch of shows. When you check the ratings charts every single week, AEW may end up being the crown jewel. In fact, I don't see anything else that would be the crown jewel of that channel other than AEW. So that's my sense anyway of how TBS is these days. It's pretty much a lateral move. I wouldn't say that it's, they're in such a better position now than they were before, but they're certainly in no worse position. Two channels that are part of the same media family. They're going from one to the other. It is a lateral move. It is not a bad move. It is not a fantastic move. It's a move. And if they get a lot of money out of it, then it's a good move. That's how I look at it. I don't look at this as a downgrade. I look at this as something that if you're an AEW fan, you can breathe a sigh of relief, because there's been a lot of, debate and discussion on social media today from people who, oh my God, the sky is falling. This is terrible. I knew TNT. They wanted to ditch wrestle. I mean, the gamut of tweets that I saw today is ridiculous. So pay no attention to all of the noise. There'll be more information in the days and weeks to come that comes out. But what we know right now is a good thing. If you are an AEW fan, this is a good thing. It is not a bad thing. Because Warner Media is all in on AEW. They're not scaling back on AEW content. They're doubling down. They've gone ahead and announced the new show. They're going to keep specials on TNT. So they are seemingly fully invested in AEW for the next few years at least. The one thing about the Rampage show, first of all, I love that name. I like the Rampage name. I didn't know what they were going to call the new show. I heard the name Rampage. I thought that's a pretty cool name. The one thing I hope it is not is basically an extension of Dark or Dark Elevation. I'm not saying Dark and Dark Elevation are bad shows, but they're full of matches with up-and-comers and people who have no name in a lot of cases and no real profile, or they put names on that show and they're there to get, enhancement victories. You can't put that on TNT or TBS. You've got to have stars on the show. You can have some, younger names that people aren't familiar with. I'm not saying you shouldn't have any of them on there. But this is a show that can't be used as a show full of squash matches. This has to be a show that has stars, storylines that extend from Wednesday to Friday. So I'm hoping this is not just an extension of Dark. It's like having another version of Dynamite, but cut in half. Instead of 2 hours, it's 1 hour. Had people asking me, who do you think the announce team for the show should be? I mean, for all we know, they can end up using, some combination of their current announcers. I think they're probably already spread a little thin. Tony Schiavone, for example, I mean, he's all over the place, right? He's doing Dynamite commentary. He's doing commentary with Paul White on Elevation. He's doing all of the backstage interviews, in-ring interviews. He does the podcast, right, with Aubrey Edwards. I think you want to have a unique announce team to give that show a distinctly different feel. And one name that a lot of you have spit at me, and I agree, if he is available. I mean, we know that. After he had the appearance at Impact recently, he said that he really enjoyed himself, and he would love to do it again. If they could work something out with Mauro Ranallo, I think that would be fantastic. Now, I say that cautiously because things did not end well with Mauro in WWE. And you can blame WWE and the environment there for that. But the reality is Mauro has been very open about his mental health issues. And, I don't know where his head is at when it comes to that kind of stuff. Doing what I believe would be a live show, live television every single week. Is that something he feels that he is ready to jump back into? I don't know. And if he's not, then he shouldn't. Because the most important thing is to make sure that, he's in a good place and he's not going to kind of overextend himself and take on something that he can't handle. So I think we have to keep that in mind before anything else. But if you were interested in doing it, you have a team of Mauro Ranallo and Taz, or Mauro Ranallo, even Paul White. What little bit I have seen recently of Elevation, he's fine. I mean, he's got a good voice. I think he's growing into the role. He was never an announcer before. Mauro and anybody would make a fine announce team, and there is no need to have a three-man booth. Mauro and one other person, and there you go. There's your Rampage announce team. That's what I would do. He's the guy that I'm picking up the phone and calling to see if he's interested. The TNT title has been another topic of interest online today. What is going to happen to the TNT title, given that they are going to be leaving TNT? And yes, I understand that TNT is also an expression that can be used for a stick of dynamite. I used to watch Looney Tunes. Yes, I'm aware. I am old enough to remember those cartoons. The point is, though, the TNT logo for the network is on the belt. So while it is a play on words, it is the TNT title for a reason, because they are airing on TNT. So it is very likely that title will need to be redesigned or rebranded in some way. There was one mentally ill mutant on social media who was going on everybody's pages in my timeline and ranting and raving and cussing about this. It was quite the thing. Anybody who even suggested such a thing, that it might have to be rebranded, this person was going off on everybody. This person belongs in a padded room. I don't know why people get so angry about these things. The amount of just idiocy that I saw earlier today was just staggering from some people on social media. I have not muted that many people in a very long time. I love it because then they talk to themselves and they have no idea that they're talking to themselves. The reality is it may change. I think the best thing to do would be to just at some point rebrand it as a television title. And if you want to, the side plates can be, or the side plates could be logos for some of the different networks and Turner properties or Warner properties, whatever. But I think that may be the best course of action in the end. Just turn it into a TV title. It doesn't have to be the TBS title or the TNT title. Just make it a TV belt. That's basically what it is. It's a television championship. The AEW television title. You don't need to overthink these things. Now, in a statement, Brian Weitz, he is the general manager of TNT, TBS, and True TV. This goes to why this happened. That's another question people are wondering. Why? Why the move? Why did they have to go from TNT to TBS? What is it that necessitated this move? Well, this is what Brian had to say. Did the NHL have anything to do with it? Sure. NHL had something to do with it. NBA had something to do with it. The college schedule, the ton of preemptions. When we looked where the consumers are going to be, where wrestling fans were going to be, we want to give them the most opportunity to consume as many shows as possible. We felt TBS had an opportunity to be the network and the best platform for the extension. Oh, I think the NHL rights deal had more than a little bit to do with the news that broke today. And he's right, the NBA did as well, and because they have other sports too. But with the announcement of the NHL package and bringing over a lot of those, and there are a lot of NHL games apparently that air on Wednesdays. That was part of the rationale that went into NXT moving from Wednesdays to Tuesdays. And then it ended up not happening, that the NHL stayed with NBC, and they went, funny enough, they went with Turner instead. But no, without a shadow of a doubt, the NHL deal had a lot to do with what happened today. The way I look at it, as long as we're not going to get as many preemptions, I'm cool with it. As a fan, as a viewer, as somebody who reviews this show every single week, preemptions are a pain in the friggin' ass. So if this means that we get fewer preemptions, hey, I'm all for it. I am all for it. It's weird for TNT though, they are routinely in the top 10 of the key demo every single week. In fact, remember they were crowing? They put a press release out a few weeks ago and they were number 1. When was the last time TNT was number 1 in that demo? In a long time. So I have to think that there are people on the TNT side that probably are not very happy that AEW, which has been such a success for them, is being yanked away and sent over to TBS. That would be my guess. That you have people at TNT specifically, below all of these Warner heads who look at the big company, the company as a whole, not so much just TNT, who are like, man, we were back in business, and all of a sudden, they're giving this to TBS. I would imagine that, they're probably not too happy about that. They probably didn't want to give the show up. But TBS does air Major League Baseball playoff games, so there still may be some preemptions. It sounds like there'll be fewer of them. Everything that I am reading, everything that I have seen over the course of the day leads to one conclusion, which is that this is nothing but a positive move for AEW. If there are any major downsides, I cannot think of one. The only potential downside is a temporary one where there will be a learning curve at the beginning. You have to educate them to go from TNT to TBS. But I cannot imagine that if you have cable, if you have YouTube TV or Sling or some other streaming service where you get TNT, then you get TBS. And if you get TBS, then you get TNT. I don't think you would typically get one without the other. So I don't think it's going to be an issue of lack of access. If you have it now, you'll have it in 6 months and 9 months. You'll just have to condition people to go to, from channel 12 to channel 14. That's about the only downside I can think of. This announcement today, the way it reads, until we get more information that contradicts, my impression of this, is that this is a good move. And good for them. A stronger AEW, whether you like them or not, is good for wrestling overall. Nobody should be rooting for AEW to become weaker or to fail or to go out of business. I know there are people who do this, but those people are fucking idiots. Sorry, but you got to look at the bigger picture. Even if I didn't watch AEW, and there's a lot of promotions I don't watch. I don't watch Impact. I used to, but I don't anymore. Do I sit here wishing that Impact would go under because, there's people at Impact I don't like? No, because I'm not a fucking moron. I want all of these places to do well. I want Impact to do well. I want MLW to do well. Ring of Honor. NXT. AEW. All of them. I want them all to thrive because it's good for wrestling if that happens. All of this stuff with Warner Media, all the news stories today about the big deal and Dynamite moving from one to the other and getting a new show and, if they're going to get all this new money, that will end up benefiting some other wrestling company. It might benefit MLW. MLW is still shopping around rights. They're on Vice, but they want to end up on other channels too. Their deal with Vice is not exclusive. People used to say, as WWE goes, so goes the rest of the wrestling business. When WWE was really hot in the late 90s, there were a lot of other companies that benefited. During that Monday Night War period, ECW benefited, but there were a lot of smaller independent promotions that benefited because wrestling was hot, right? And that way, everybody benefits. So, again, this is a good deal. I'll have more on this on Sunday's podcast if more comes out about it between now and then. Sean Ross Sapp also reported over on Fightful Select earlier today some pay-per-view news that AEW Full Gear is going to take place on Saturday, November 6th. So there you go. Pay-per-views back to Saturday, November 6th from St. Louis, Missouri. And they'll have a live Rampage on TNT the night before. That's going to be a busy week. Live Dynamite, I assume live. Dynamite on Wednesday. Live Rampage on Friday. Live pay-per-view on Saturday. Sound off on Sunday. It's going to be busy. And if you are in the St. Louis area or you want to travel in for the pay-per-view, I don't have ticket information here, but that is a show I'm sure a lot of people are going to be excited to be a part of. Now, speaking of preemptions, right? Case in point. Next week's Dynamite is the go-home show to Double or Nothing, and it will be preempted by the NBA playoffs. It will instead be airing on Friday, May 28th at 10 p.m. Eastern. So as soon as SmackDown goes off the air, Dynamite will be airing on TNT. That's not this week, next week. Next Friday, 2 days before Double or Nothing, 10 p.m. on TNT. So there will be no Dynamite review next week. I'm obviously not Wednesday, and I'm not going live next Friday. I'm not staying up until midnight and then going live. So there will be no Dynamite review next week. I might consider doing a live stream on Saturday earlier in the day. That's the 29th. And talking about Dynamite, doing Double or Nothing predictions. I'll think about it. If not, we'll just save it for the podcast. Episode 706 that Sunday. I'll keep you guys posted on Twitter. So follow me on there. Listen to the main show. I'll let you guys know what I plan on doing. But there's your update. All the TV stuff. Hopefully I answered all your questions. Not everybody was following this during the day. Some people were at work and didn't have time to sit around reading about AEW's TV deal. So hopefully that brings you up to speed on where things are. Mr. Delgado says, woo, in the chat. Shout out to all my channel members. I see your badges. Yeah, J-Dub. Hey, I'm getting old. I'm an old man. What can I say? Old man Solomonster. You know, I got my bedtime. I got to get my beauty rest. Otherwise, I'm going to be a cranky old man the next day. Believe me, I'm overworked as it is with a lot of stuff. But yeah, we're not. You also got to be respectful of kind of the neighborhood here. You know, I don't think people want to hear me shouting about Dynamite at 1 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, we'll save the review for another time. Let's talk about tonight's show, which I thought was good. I did think overall it was a good show tonight. I see Seth Rollins. Good to see Seth puking on my stream again, as he does every week. Look at this. Look at Seth. We had Christian Cage one-on-one against Matt Sydal. Interesting opener. Interesting in that it was really good. Sydal went for a springboard attack. Christian cut him off with a kick to the leg. Hit a drop kick through the ropes to the outside. Remember, Christian is the one who outworks everyone. That's his catchphrase. He outworks everyone. He had his working boots on here in this match. He used the backbreaker for a near fall. After the backbreaker, he was going after Matt's back stomps and kicks. Sydal came back with a Hurricane Rana and a spin kick, fought off a superplex attempt, hit a Meteora for a near fall. Christian ducked a kick. Sydal caught him with a lariat, hit a Bronco Buster in the corner for another 2 count. Still hitting Bronco Busters in 2021, huh? Sydal avoided a spear, hit a sunset flip for a near fall. Used a straightjacket submission. Christian made the ropes. Then he missed a frog splash. Then Sydal missed a moonsault. Christian hit a spear that Edge would have been proud of. Only got 2.5. So finally, Sydal blocked a kill switch attempt. Christian got his knees up on the standing shooting star attempt, and then hit the kill switch for the pin. And when the match was over, Christian helped him to his feet. And like a good sport, the two of them shook hands. So just a straight up, really good opener, really good wrestling match between these two. Good to see Matt Sydal get some Dynamite airtime. Christian, though, is the one who, they're both going to be in the Battle Royal at the pay-per-view, but Christian is really one of the main faces they're building up for that Battle Royal. Ricky Starks walked out after the match on stage in a suit. Nice tan suit. I think it was tan. Cut a promo, talked about how he's not going to be on the sidelines despite his injury. He didn't mention the injury. He was kind of alluding to it, though. He's got a broken neck. Call it what you want, broken, fractured. He's got a broken neck. And he's avoiding surgery, which is good. That doesn't mean that in 3 months, though, that the neck will be fully healed and he won't still need surgery. Hopefully he won't. But he's going to be out of the ring for a while. He gestured to the entrance tunnel for the rest of Team Taz to come out. Nobody came out from the tunnel. Instead, they came out from the crowd. Hook, Brian Cage, Powerhouse Hobbs, jumped Christian and Sydal from behind. Out comes Hangman Page, half drunk. He hands Ricky Starks his beer as he goes into the ring to make the save. And Brian Cage blocked a buckshot lariat attempt. Page blocked an F5. Hook gave Page a chop block. Cage hit a powerbomb. And that was your opening segment. They cut to the back. We had a pre-taped interview backstage with Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison, Varsity Blondes, who were challenging the Young Bucks in the main event for the AEW Tag Team titles. And Brian Pillman got to cut a promo. Julia Hart, by the way, was with them. The only exposure I've had to Julia Hart, she was in a match, I think a few weeks ago on Dynamite. I'd never heard of her before. I don't know anything about her. But it looks like they might be putting these three together as a package deal. So she stood by in the background while Pillman cut his promo. Talked about how the Bucks wanted to drag the name of his late father into the conversation. He goes, a lot of people would think that I'm in the wrestling business right now because of my father, because, I'm only in it because of him. He goes, it's quite the contrary. He goes, I actually avoided getting into the wrestling business because of that man. Because basically he was a cautionary tale of what could happen if you got into the wrestling business. So his father is the one who actually, in a way, kept him out of the wrestling business until one day, as the story goes, he met the Young Bucks and they were such great guys, and it inspired him to become a pro wrestler. Griff Garrison got to talk a little bit. He said that he was asked to work the Bucks merch table at a local indie show back in 2018. Said the Bucks today are not the same guys they were back then. And they talked about how they were going to become the tag team champions. So I thought this was good. You know, good for Pillman to get some promo time here. Very interesting that whether or not he believes that, I thought that was a strong line, that his father is actually the one who kept him out of the wrestling business. Not that his father himself did anything, but just kind of his story and what happened to him led to him not even thinking about getting into wrestling until one day he did. Not quite the story, though, where, you know, the Bucks were the ones who got him in or inspired him to get in. I actually think it was something he told the story, I think, on Dark Side of the Ring. Or wasn't it Steve Austin sent him something of his dad's many years ago? I think that was part of what ended up getting him into the wrestling business. Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston against the Acclaimed, Max Caster and Anthony Bowen. Moxley and Kingston entered to the version of Wild Thing from the movie Major League, which, if this is their new tag team music, I like this version better than the original that Moxley used for his match against Nagata last week. I think live crowds are going to have a lot of fun singing along to the... You know, one of the cool things about Tony Khan, you know, ponying up the cash to pay for the rights to use a lot of these songs, and the Baltimore song, you know, for Jungle Boy, when they get back out on the road in these, you know, slightly bigger venues and they get more people into the buildings, first of all, you're going to have a lot of people who are just very excited to be back in the building. They're going to be very excited to be amongst other wrestling fans and not wearing masks and not having to distance from each other and just being able to buy a ticket and go to a show and watch pro wrestling. So for WWE, for AEW, when both companies are back on the road in full force, which is going to be happening in the next couple of months, there's going to be a honeymoon period. I don't know if it's going to be a matter of weeks. I don't know if it's going to last a few months. It'll probably be a few weeks where these people, we should get some hot-ass crowds. And with AEW, these people are going to be able to listen to wrestlers come to the ring to real music. Not generic rock, instrumental, like real music that in some cases you want to sing along to. And I think it's going to make for a very cool atmosphere on these shows. So I am not at all against them doing this. I'm not at all, and Orange Cassidy too. Orange Cassidy has that song, just forgot what it was, but he's got a real song that he uses as well. Although, not exactly, I mean, not the kind of song I think you're going to, you know, you're not going to dance to the fucking thing when he comes down to the ring. But I think this could be a fun thing when you get more people back in the buildings. I hope, though, that they don't abandon Moxley's AEW music as a single. If this is for the tag team, him and Kingston, I think that's cool. But I said, I like Moxley's AEW theme song. I have no issue with it. I think it fits his personality well. So I hope they don't ditch it. But let's talk about Max Caster here for a second. Max Caster rapped on his way to the ring, and he was rapping on Eddie Kingston. And then he turned his attention to Jon Moxley. And the final verse of his rap, and I'm paraphrasing here, was, "Yo, Mox, call your girl. She all up in my mentions, trying to hit me up for some oral sessions." Oral sessions being the title of Renee Young's podcast, for those who don't, for the two people listening who are watching right now who may not know that. And it got a big reaction, and the camera zoomed in on Moxley, who had this blank look on his face. But he always has this blank look on his face. I think he was born that way. But that was a fucking great line. That was a great line. There's sometimes Caster has these lines that just make me cringe or make me kind of like, oh man. That was a good line. Anthony Bowens goes, "What? She just wants us to be on the podcast." And as soon as he gets into the ring, Moxley pops him right in the mouth. The one thing I'll say about this, Moxley should have made a beeline for Caster. It almost looked like It almost looked like it didn't register with him. Like, this guy just insulted his wife. Why was Jon Moxley not gunning for Max Caster as soon as it came out of his mouth? That's the one thing that I would have had Moxley just try to chase after this guy and tear him limb from limb. Kingston worked over Caster for a while until Caster hit a dragon screw to take over. They cut to picture-in-picture. Kingston made a hot tag to Moxley after the break. Moxley hit a German suplex and a pile driver on Caster, so he did get some revenge. But I mean, right away, he should have just charged after this. He should have chased this guy up into the friggin' bleachers. He gave him a pile driver. He choked Anthony Bowens out with a sleeper on the apron. Bowens popped back up, cut Moxley off on the top rope. Caster hit a superplex. Bowens hit Moxley with a crossbody for a near fall. Eddie Kingston made the save. So Max Caster threw a chain that he wears around his neck, threw it to Anthony Bowens. Referee saw it. He grabbed the chain, so now the referee is distracted. Meanwhile, Max Caster grabs the boombox. He's going to go to use it on Eddie Kingston. Moxley blocks, hits Caster with it instead. And Kingston and Moxley hit a wheelbarrow into a paradigm shift. Look at this. Tandem offense from Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. Double team maneuvers. I like it. Wheelbarrow into the paradigm shift, and Moxley pins Anthony Bowens. So this was good. Max Caster has a way with words. Max Caster, you look at him, he's a young guy. Obviously, has a way with words. And I don't want to say that Anthony Bowens doesn't have a future. I think they both do. And I think it's good. That as a combo, they work as a team. But Max Caster, there's some real potential there. As more than just one half of a tag team. There is definitely a lot of potential there. They cut to Chris Jericho in the back. He was having a chat with Dean Malenko when Alex Marvez approached them and asked Jericho if the Inner Circle would accept the Pinnacle's challenge to a Stadium Stampede match at the pay-per-view. Jericho said Marvez has to wait to find out with everybody else. Told Marvez get out of here before he makes the man of 1,000 holds angry. And Dean Malenko chimed in and he joked that Jericho knew 4 more holds than he did. And Jericho said that he had forgotten a few. It's good to see the Iceman on TV. We don't get to see him a whole lot. You'll see him maybe breaking up a fight every now and then. I don't expect him to be doing much in the way of physical stuff, obviously, with the Parkinson's. So just to see him on TV, and obviously he and Jericho have a history together, so that was very cool. Reminds me of the one of the hotter crowd pops I can remember from that Monday Night War period is when Jericho was the Cruiserweight champion, I believe, right? Is when Malenko unmasked. He was wearing like a lucha outfit or whatever. He had a mask on, pulled the mask off. I just remember the reaction from the crowd when he pulled the mask off. They had some fun matches, those two. Of course, who can forget Jericho's Man of 1,004 holds promo, right? If nothing else, we got that out of that feud. So, what's not to like? Tony Schiavone was in the ring to interview Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. All ego, Ethan Page. Sky said that Sting is not the man he used to be. Ethan Page said that Darby Allin losing the TNT title, he goes, MIRO, I'm not taking full credit for MIRO's win, but he goes, I'm at least partially responsible for Darby losing his championship because I threw him down the stairs, and he was screaming a lot. He basically screamed his entire promo. I think Jake Roberts would like to have a word with you, young man. You don't have to scream everything. But he made it very clear he is going to be the nail in Darby Allin's coffin. He is a very angry person, and he is very angry at Darby Allin. That is what I got out of this promo. Sting and Darby then showed up to lay both men out. Sting used the Scorpion Deathlock on Sky. It looked terrible because he can't sit back on it. He can't or he won't. Can't sit back on the hold. He did this a lot in TNA. He did this a lot in TNA towards the end there. He had matches with like Magnus where he would lock on the sharpshooter, but he would just stand there. And I've always said, like, I understand that was always one of his marquee moves. But if it's not going to look good, you've got another move in the Scorpion Death Drop. Just use that. Because when you do a sharpshooter, Scorpion Deathlock in this case, and you don't sit back on it, it just looks very weak. Where is the pain coming from? So I didn't think that looked good, but Sky and Paige got out of there. They went up onto the stage. The Dark Order came out, and so they ended up running the other way. It is now official. We are getting a tag team match at Double or Nothing, and they said they made it very clear. This is not going to be cinematic. That's Tony Schiavone's actual words on TV. Oh, this is not going to be a cinematic match. That was ridiculous. I don't even know why you would say that on the show itself. Just, which is what they did here. Just say that this is going to be Sting's first live, in-arena, in-ring match in nearly 6 years. That's all you got to say. It was just weird having them just outright say to the television audience, it's not going to be cinematic. So anyway, we know it's not going to be cinematic. And Sting will indeed be wrestling a normal match in the ring. It's a tag team match, so he won't have to be in there for too long, taking bumps. But this flies in the face of what he told AEW on their own podcast at the beginning when he made the deal with Tony Khan. It was to do a certain number of cinematic matches each year. He already did one at Revolution that I think was very well received. It was one of the more fun matches on that show. And it didn't take very long. The very next pay-per-view, he's going to be in the ring in front of people. And look, I can understand it because they're going to have a full crowd at Daly's Place. This is the first full Daly's Place crowd they're going to have in well over a year. Certainly since the beginning of the pandemic. I don't know if it's going to be the full 5,000. I'm hearing it'll be maybe around 3,500, 3,700, somewhere around there. But that's more people than they've had in a very long time. So if you're Sting, if you're Darby Allin, you don't want to be doing a taped cinematic match on location somewhere. You want to be in the building. You want to hear the roar of the crowd. You want that vibe. You want that energy. I get it. So as long as they keep Sting in a position where he doesn't have to take too many bumps, hopefully, he'll be fine. The Pinnacle, earlier today, were eating at a restaurant all together at the table. MJF cut a promo on Chris Jericho, talking about his juvenile behavior. Dax Harwood cut a promo about how the Pinnacle should be chasing every title in AEW, but they can't because they're too busy dealing with the Inner Circle. Said Jericho's been making a mockery of the business for over 30 years. Sean Spears physically assaulted a waiter, and Tully Blanchard after felt bad, and so he threw some money at him. Said that should take care of things. And MJF said basically the Pinnacle is always on top. Really not much to this promo segment. Just sort of, teasing out what is the decision that the Inner Circle is going to make. Which everybody knew what the decision was going to be. But they were teasing it out anyway. Are they going to accept? Are they going to reject the offer to a Stadium Stampede? We would find out later on in the night. We had the AEW Women's Champion Hikaru Shida, non-title, one-on-one against Rebel, not Reba, as they build to Shida defending against Britt Baker at Double or Nothing. Shida put a black glove on like Britt Baker does before she goes for her lockjaw submission. And Shida was about to do the same. Britt jumped up on the apron for the distraction. Rebel retrieved a crutch, whacked Shida across the back with it, and got a near fall. Shida fought back, won with the stretch muffler submission before Britt Baker immediately, as soon as the match was over, bell rings, Britt Baker dives in, jumps right on top of Shida, and she gave her a curb stomp. Curb stomped Shida right onto the title belt, face down, right onto the AEW Women's belt. The match was nothing special. It served a purpose. It was a simple angle to put some heat on Britt ahead of the championship match. So, like I said, served its purpose. Wasn't great. Wasn't terrible. It brings us one step closer, though, to Britt Baker becoming the new women's champion on May 30th. Want to send a nice shout out to our mods in the chat. They do God's work every week. So all of my mods, including Uffman, and I don't know how many of them are in the chat tonight, but I see Uffman in there. So I just want to acknowledge him and say thank you for your sacrifice, good sir. Thank you for being a good sound-off soldier here on the streams. Footage aired from last week. This was post-Dynamite. So remember the scary spot where it looked like Orange Cassidy got his bell rung, which he did. Thankfully, he was not injured. He was not concussed, but it looked scary there for a little bit. So they had footage in the back after the show last week. Kenny Omega and Don Callis, they got into the dressing room where Orange Cassidy had an ice pack on his neck. He was with the doctor. They sat down next to him. And Omega told Cassidy, look, we need you to be the mascot. We got the perfect role for you. You can be the mascot of AEW. Callis presented Orange Cassidy with a contract. A legal document. Not a contract, but more of a legal document that would have Orange Cassidy forfeit his title match at Double or Nothing. Because the guy, clearly you're hurt. You shouldn't have to feel as though you have to go to the pay-per-view and risk your life and risk your health. So you'll sacrifice your title match, and you could always meet Omega down the road. Once you're healthier, once you're feeling better, we can revisit this whole title match thing. We just need you to sign here. So Orange Cassidy took the contract, he tore it in half. And Omega pointed out that Callis actually printed out a second version of the document, which they again presented to Orange Cassidy, and they told him to think it over. Gee, I wonder what decision he will make. I wonder. The Inner Circle came out to the ring to accept the Pinnacle's challenge to a stadium stampede at Double or Nothing, where if the Inner Circle loses, they must disband forever. The Inner Circle ceases to exist if they lose this match. And now having a week to think about it, because remember what I said last week, how, first of all, this whole thing is ass backwards. And now that we know that AEW is going back on the road very soon, I don't know why they didn't just wait to do the Blood and Guts match. Start with the Stadium Stampede, do that first, and then 6-8 weeks later, I think, right? They're going to be back on the road. Unless it's a building size issue where you can't get 2 rings in the venue, save it for the road and blow this whole thing off, not in the Stadium Stampede, but blow it off in Blood and Guts. That's what I would have liked to have seen them do. But they're doing it the opposite way. But the other thing I mentioned also is that, you know, the heels got the win as they should have in Blood and Guts. And they should win again at Double or Nothing. Because the Inner Circle has pretty much done all they can do. Probably a good time to maybe let them go their separate ways anyway. Keep the heels looking strong when they move on to whatever their next challenge is going to be. Having had a week now to think about how this is going to go, I'm almost positive the babyfaces are going to win. And it was pointed out to me, or I was reminded of the fact that the Inner Circle already lost the Stadium Stampede Part 1. Would they lose 2 years in a row? Probably not. So all odds probably point to a babyface win here. Then they'll be even. I don't know. You do a third match? I mean, what are you going to do for a third match if you do one? You've already done War Games. You're going to do you're going to do Stadium Stampede. Where do you go from here? This almost has to be the end, right? No matter who wins, this almost feels like it has to be the end. But it probably is setting up for a babyface win. Santana wasn't there because this was taped last week, and he wasn't there last week either. He was sick. The explanation on television is that he was arrested, I think, for using a fork on MJF. That was what they came up with. But Chris Jericho did make it a point here to mention the fact that he will be back next week. So Santana will be back next week on Dynamite. Ortiz spoke first. Of course, he said, yes, we should do the match. Sammy Guevara spoke. He said, of course, we should do the match. Jake Hager spoke, and I kind of went, how's this going to go? I was like, looking like this, like peeking through my fingers here. You never know with a Hager promo, but he was all right. He expressed why this match needs to happen. He said the last thing we want is to be a bunch of schoolgirl bitches like the Pinnacle. Jericho had the cast on his arm from what apparently was a legitimately dislocated elbow he suffered on that fall in the Blood and Guts match. He says when he thinks of the revenge that he is going to be able to get on MJF, it'll all be worth it. Because he was kind of building up to what his answer would be. He goes, having gone through Blood and Guts and getting hurt and falling from, 12 feet in the air. And if I was just a few inches up, it could have been curtains for me. And my family, my kids, is it worth it? He said, yes. When I think of getting revenge on MJF for what he has done, it is absolutely worth it. He told the Pinnacle they're going to dance all over their faces and piss all over their graves. So the stage is set for Stadium Stampede 2. At Double or Nothing, the Pinnacle and the Inner Circle. I know you're as shocked as I am that they said yes to this challenge, right? Yeah, I couldn't believe it either. Tony Schiavone, the interview maven himself, earlier in the day had the chance to interview Jade Cargill, or attempt to interview Jade Cargill in the back. The hottest free agent, they say, in AEW. And before she could even get a full sentence out, they are interrupted by Mark Sterling because he wanted to know. Tony Schiavone wanted to know, have you made a decision yet on whether or not you are going to have a manager? And if so, who is that person going to be? So they're immediately interrupted by Mark Sterling, who has been courting Jade Cargill now for a few weeks. This Mark Sterling guy is the same guy who played the part of MJF's attorney many months ago on television. John Moxley had a match with him and beat him up. And he said that, look, Matt Hardy and Vicky Guerrero, they already have female clients, which is a clear conflict of interest. He goes, Taz has his own group. He named it after himself. Basically he's a narcissist. He wants to work for Jade. I want to work for you. I don't want you to come work for me. I'm here to work for you. And she told him, don't ever interrupt one of my promos again. Get out of here and I will think about it. Now, I don't personally think that she needs a manager. I'm not opposed to the idea of her having a manager, though. Clearly, she's going to have one. The only question is who. And I am not at all enthused about just taking one of the existing people and just slotting Jade Cargill in there. We know it's not going to be Zelina Vega. I mean, that was one idea that I think one of you guys floated a few weeks ago that I kind of liked. I think that could have been a pairing that worked. And based on recent reports, it sure don't look like that's going to happen. But there is another free agent. A free agent by the name of Selena De La Renta, who is no longer with MLW. She is a free agent herself. And I think she would make a fine manager for Jade Cargill if AEW was going to bring her in. I think that would be a fine role for her. So I just put that out there into the universe as an idea. You may have another name in mind. You may not think she needs one. But Selena De La Renta coming into AEW and taking on the so-called hottest free agent in the company as her first client, I could get behind that. Just getting her on TV at all, I can get behind that. We had Serena Deeb taking on Red Velvet for the NWA Women's Championship. This was Serena's first match since she hurt her knee in a match with Riho. They had the Women's World Title Eliminator. This was about 3 months ago. And she injured her knee in that match. She had to have a knee scope. So post-surgery, this is her first time back in the ring, and she did not waste any time. The champion immediately attacking Red Velvet right from the bell. She hit a twisting neck breaker, tried to end it early. Velvet kicked out. So they end up going to break, and they come back from break, and Red Velvet is on the apron. She hits a moonsault off the apron onto Serena on the floor. Back inside, she hits a top rope moonsault, but Serena gets the knees up, follows that up with a power bomb into a high stack for the pin, but Red Velvet kicks out. Serena locks on the Serenity Lock. It's her big submission hold. So she applies the lock. Velvet is reaching for the ropes, which is hard to do because she's like 4'9". So she's crawling and edging and inching her way over to the ropes, and then they drag her right back into the middle of the ring. She's got nowhere to go. But for some reason, Serena lets the hold go. She tries for a figure four instead. Velvet pulls her in for a small package, gets a near fall. Serena hits a chop block to the back of the knee, starts smashing Red Velvet's knee into the mat over and over and over again, and then finally reapplies the Serenity Lock for the submission win. And so I thought this was good. I mean, Red Velvet has, in the times that I've seen her, and tonight was no exception, Red Velvet has good fire. She's got good intensity. And I think she could turn into a very good worker on that women's roster, better than she is even right now. I don't know how many years of experience she has. I don't think it's that long. But I like what I see from Red Velvet. She's like this little spitfire when she's out there. We already know Serena Deeb is very good, so you don't need me to tell you that. So I thought this was actually good. The one major critique I have of this, and this is not their fault. It's not the fault of Serena Deeb, and it's not the fault of Red Velvet. They gave this win when the match was over, like the bell rang, and the camera kind of zoomed in on Serena Deeb, and within 5 seconds, it was on to the next segment. They didn't give this win any room to breathe, didn't give it a replay, nothing. It's like, all right, hey Billy, we'll put the NWA Women's title on our show this week, but we're going to get the hell out of there into the next segment as quickly as possible. That's what you would think happened here. They didn't give it any time to breathe. And this is a problem. This is a consistent problem with the show. They do this a lot. They do this almost every week. There'll be at least one, if not more than one segment where it ends and just abruptly, it's on to the next. Because they have so much shit to try to squeeze into those 2 hours. It's not even 2 hours if you factor out the commercials. That's why I'm hoping this Rampage show, once it gets added in August, maybe that will help alleviate some of this. They won't feel as much pressure, maybe, to squeeze as much into these Dynamites as they do right now because they don't have another television show. They'll have another hour in a few months. And I'm hoping that might relieve this issue a little bit. That was the thing that struck me when this was over. They had a really, good match. And Serena retains, and it's just immediately into this Pac promo from backstage with Alex Marvez earlier today. You got to give these things time to breathe a little bit. Just give it a few extra seconds before you just cut away to the next thing. So Pac says he's tired of missing opportunities in AEW. He's got his world title match now. He's getting the shot at Double or Nothing. Nothing that Omega, Don Callis, the Young Bucks, or any of those elitist pricks can do about it. Pac said that you'd be a fool to bet against the bastard at Double or Nothing. We had Anthony Ogogo. Anthony Ogogo. Apparently the Antichrist here in America, if Cody Rhodes is to be believed based on his promo last week. I mean, Anthony Ogogo is like Sergeant Slaughter in 1991 burning the Hulkamania t-shirt on TV, taking pictures with Saddam Hussein. Some people call him Saddam. Some people call him Saddam. Hulk Hogan, in a promo at the Royal Rumble, I think it was the Rumble, I believe, in 1991. You remember the famous botch during the Hogan promo backstage with Mean Gene Okerlund. He forgot the guy's name. And he kind of stumbled over his words, and he got completely flustered. And it was the funniest thing. And this is what made Mean Gene Okerlund so good at his job. When I talk about how it's a lost art, what people like him used to do, it's more than just standing there with a mic in your hand. Anybody can do that. I can do that. Anybody can stand there with a microphone in their hand and just go, it's like the fucking drones on WWE television. Please welcome my guest at this time, Deuce and Domino, right? And then they turn and it's like, Deuce and Domino, how do you feel about your match tonight? That there's no talent or skill required to do that. Okay, you can have a fucking potted plant do that. But the beauty in what Mean Gene used to do is that he could set things up in a way where if he had to react, he could react in a certain way. If somebody was just, they did something so horrible, he would react in a way that would make you think this person is just the sickest man on the face of the earth. And if you noticed that somebody was getting lost in a promo, or in this case was stumbling over their words, he would be there to save them. He stepped in right away. He saved Hogan because, Hogan wasn't used to kind of losing his train of thought like that. So I don't know how I ended up on that story, but Anthony Ogogo is not Sergeant Slaughter 1991. Anthony Ogogo, if you watch the Ogogo promo that I saw on their YouTube channel, I don't know if this aired on Dark or if this aired on Elevation. He was with QT Marshall and Nick Camarado and Aaron Solo. They were in the back somewhere. And he cut a hell of a promo. He kind of took charge of the promo, and it was really good. You almost come out of the promo thinking this guy's a babyface. He was kind of healing on America and talking about how we don't take care of our sick and we have this for-profit healthcare system. By the time it was over, I'm like, bravo. This guy's a fucking babyface. I know who I'm rooting for, Double or Nothing. He didn't say anything in that promo that I disagreed with. So he was on this show here. He took on Austin Gunn, repping the Nightmare Factory with Cody and Arn Anderson in his corner. And right away, Billy Gunn's son goes right after Anthony Ogogo, hits a drop kick, series of right hands. He hits a blockbuster. And Ogogo is kind of, he's stammering around, and the announcers pointed out that in one of his eyes, he's only got a certain amount of vision. He's got a lot of vision that was taken away from him in that eye. I think it was from an old boxing injury. In fact, I think that's why he had to stop pursuing boxing, over in the UK. So he's kind of got to go back on his heels. And I'm just thinking to myself, of all the people, to be the first person to have Anthony Ogogo show any kind of weakness in a match, it's Austin Gunn. But all right, whatever, we'll go with it. Ogogo finally hit the gut punch. Now, in previous matches, the referee would immediately stop the match. For whatever reason, I guess the punch didn't have the same effect on Austin Gunn. He let the match continue. Austin Gunn used the ropes and pulled himself back up to his feet. He got punched again. And they had taken the camera off of him for a while and kept it focused on Ogogo. And I figured he was probably either blading or putting a blood capsule in his mouth. That's what he did. He came up with blood coming out of his mouth like he had internal injuries. And finally, Ogogo hit a pop-up punch on the way down. He just decked him, knocked him out. Bryce Remsburg throws the match away, calls for a ref stoppage. And Ogogo was teasing that he might spit on the American flag when the match was over. Cody stepped in, though, and rescued the flag. And referees ran in to make sure that these factions, the Factory and the Nightmare Factory and the Cheesecake Factory, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, were all kept apart. Save it for the pay-per-view. We still have no sense of whether Anthony Ogogo can actually work a match longer than 90 seconds. We have not seen much of anything out of him. Now, I said the same thing about Jade Cargill leading up to the tag match with her and Shaq against Cody and Red Velvet. And Jade Cargill, look, she doesn't know a whole lot, but she went into that match and she was impressive for someone who's never had a match in her career, a real match up to that point. She did fine. So it is entirely possible that we will go into Double or Nothing next weekend and Anthony Ogogo will have a 5 or 6 minute match. He'll have a Brock Lesnar match with Cody, and he'll do just enough to impress me. You know, maybe they've been hiding him and he's holding back, saving it for the pay-per-view, and then he'll shock the world. I don't know. I don't know what to expect because I haven't seen much out of him up to this point. I think he needs to destroy Cody at the pay-per-view. And I don't mean it's going to be like a Brody Lee match when Brody Lee literally just beat the fuck out of Cody for about 3 minutes and won. That was a total squash. That was total domination. I'm not expecting total domination. Cody will get his offense in. Look, Cody is not coming into this match one night only with the American Dream name and being destroyed in 2 minutes. He will go in there. He will have, he'll have his offensive flurry. He'll take it to Anthony Ogogo. He's fighting for the American Dream. He's fighting for the United States. He's like fucking Captain America in that ring. But in the end, Anthony Ogogo should win this match. There's no reason for Cody to win. What they're trying to do here is they're trying to make a new star. And I always say the best way to make a new star, and I say this as a fan, when I have seen people, promoters, try to make new stars on television over the years, the ones that usually get over pretty well are the ones who win. The ones that win. Winning isn't everything, but it probably is the most important thing. And so if you want to get this guy over as just a wrecking machine, then he should go in there with Cody and he should win. Cody's having a kid soon. He may be taking time off anyway. This could be their way of sending him away for a while. Cody could be taking another little sabbatical soon. And if so, then Anthony Ogogo should win this match. And I don't know if he's ready. But look, if you're going to try to make a new star, he should win. Period. End of story. Cody should not win this match. Alex Marvez was in the back earlier with Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian. And here I thought that we had seen the last of SCU already going back on the stipulation. Look at this. I thought SCU was supposed to be no longer together on my television, and here they are doing a promo in the back together. See? Look at this. They're lying to us. So Marvez asked Christopher Daniels to explain a very cryptic tweet that he had posted earlier in the week about, it hinted basically at him possibly retiring. And Daniels did not answer his question. He turned to Frankie. He shook his hand. He leaned in and said something. He whispered something to him that we couldn't hear. And off went Christopher Daniels. And he left Frankie Kazarian all by himself. And Kazarian cut a promo. He said that Daniels has earned the right to call his own shots. He said that he blames the Young Bucks, Gallows and Anderson, and Don Callis for ripping his heart out. He said that he'll have his revenge and that is the gospel according to Frankie Kazarian. And I just want to mention that Kazarian, he did not just lose his partner on television last week. He lost his father in real life. Posted that on social media as well. His father, Frank, passed away this past week. So my condolences to Kazarian and his family. That's tough. MIRO, the new TNT champion, the new soon-to-be TBS would-be TV champion, came out for a promo. He thanked Jesus Christ for protecting him. He thanked Jesus for giving him the strength to beat everybody up and to be dominant. Yeah, I always wonder, when I watch a sports game, whether it's basketball, football. Yeah, I guess it happens sometimes in baseball as well. And they're doing a post-game promo. Maybe the guy hit the game-winning basket, threw the game-winning touchdown or something. And he's being interviewed, and they say, take us through those final moments, and what led to you pulling off the impossible? And they go, the first thing I got to do is I got to thank the Lord Jesus Christ for giving me for helping me win the game. And I'm thinking to myself, if you're the opponent, if you're the person who basically lost in a heartbreaker, right? Or you just got bounced out of the playoffs or something, you were on the receiving end of whatever that play was. And perhaps you too believe in the Lord, right? The Lord Jesus Christ. What are you thinking? I mean, does Jesus, explain to me how this works? Does Jesus favor one player over the other? Is he up there like, those guys at the OTB or whatever, taking bets on who's going to win the game? He's putting his money down on this guy, but not the other one. Like, what? You're helping him, but you're not helping this other guy over here? That doesn't seem very fair to me. See, if it were me, I'd be the heel. And I'd be doing my interview, and I would say, well, there's only one person I really need to thank for this. He's the person that gives me the strength to come out here every week and do what I do. And that's me. I'm the one. Nobody else. I thank me. Anyway. What do you think I do before I come on the air every week? Who do you think I thank? I thank myself. And I thank all of you for joining me. So MIRO said that he would defend the TNT title on Friday Night Dynamite next week. He didn't say against who, but we found out later on it's going to be against Dante Martin of Top Flight, who doesn't have a whole hell of a lot to do because his brother, his partner, is out with a knee injury. It's going to be out for a while. But he will defend that championship next week. That's 2 days before he puts the title on the line against the Murder Hawk monster Lance Archer. At Double or Nothing, we are going to get the two big boys going one-on-one for the TNT title. Archer and Jake Roberts came out. It's what they do. They interrupt people's promos. This is their specialty. Archer said that at Double or Nothing, he would make MIRO his Bulgarian bitch. That is the second promo of this show where somebody called another person a bitch. They do the same thing in WWE. When you know people are serious is when you hear them throw around the word bitch in a promo. I guess because they can't use other 4-letter words, perhaps, that they would like to use, so they use the word bitch instead. Although bitch is not 4 letters. But I'm aware. MIRO warns Archer that there is not enough yoga in the world that's going to save Jake Roberts if he gets in his way. He says, everybody dies, right? You say that. You say that, Archer. Everybody dies. He goes, and that's true. But you're going to die first. I actually like this promo. MIRO, this version of MIRO is what I have been waiting for, right? He had that great match with Darby Allin last week. In the end, he was dominant. He won the championship. He and Archer are talking shit to each other back and forth. It wasn't even like they were waiting for the other to finish speak. They were almost like talking over each other there towards the end. Like, I liked it. I liked the back and forth here. And I liked the yoga line on Jake Roberts. And Jake seemed to like it too. He had a smirk on his face. We had the Young Bucks in the main event wrestling yet again in their $10,000 Dior Jordan 1s, which I know because they were on Sports Center with Charlie Caruso, funny enough, earlier today talking about the fact that they were going to wear their sneakers again on Dynamite this week. They were going to wrestle in these apparently $10,000 pair of sneakers. Now, I am not up on my current sneaker trends. The thought of there being a $10,000 pair of sneakers is unimaginable to me. I would like to know what is it about this particular pair of shoes that makes it so expensive. Are they rare? Are there only a certain number of them? Are they made of the flesh of another human being? Are they made out of animal flesh from some animal that is almost extinct? Is it the woolly mammoth? What exactly is it that makes it worth $10,000? I would love to know. So, they were defending the tag team titles, by the way. They weren't just out there wearing sneakers. They were, they are sneakers, aren't they? I think they're sneakers. Defending against the Varsity Blondes. Brian Pillman Jr. and Griff Garrison. They're made of gold. Paul Heyman in the chat says they're made of gold. They didn't look gold to me. Yes, Turtlehead, I understand that it's Dior, but there is no pair of sneakers in the world that should be worth $10,000. I don't care what brand they are. I don't care what they're made out of. Dr. NXT Scorpio says they thank Jesus for the sneaker. Well, there you go. There you go. They have been blessed. That's why they're so expensive. Excalibur welcomed, and I quote, the walking urinal, Don Callis to the announce booth. I do enjoy Excalibur's little insults whenever Don Callis joins them on commentary. Usually he calls him human garbage, but I guess the walking urinal kind of is one step up from human garbage. So the Bucks were working over Brian Pillman, leading into the final ad break, and when we came back, Griff Garrison got the hot tag. Garrison caught the champions with a double spear, takes down Matt and Nick, follows that up with a giant leap, out to the floor, out over the top rope. He wipes out both Matt and Nick Jackson. So the Blondes were setting up for their tag team finish when Pillman got crotched on the top rope. Griff Garrison got sent to the floor. Nick Jackson hit a running penalty kick to Griff. And they were right back to working over Brian Pillman. Matt Jackson locks on a sharpshooter. Nick slides in. While Pillman is stuck in the sharpshooter, he sprays this poor bastard with that cold spray, that aerosol spray, which is probably water, right in the face. Garrison has seen enough. He goes in, breaks up the hold. Julia Hart gets up on the apron. She gets sprayed in the eyes. Good. She has no business being on the apron. She should be sprayed in the eyes. I would have maced her too. This is my match, not yours. Goodbye. So away she goes. Pillman wound up back in the sharpshooter. Nick Jackson did a springboard maneuver into the ring, planted Pillman face first. Upon impact, it looked like. While he was still locked in the sharpshooter. And at that point, Pillman had nowhere to go, and he tapped out. So the Young Bucks retained the tag team titles. Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston come into the ring. They attack the Bucks. Moxley locks the rear naked choke on Matt. Kingston locks the choke in on Nick. They put the champions out. And then came a very bizarre part of the show. They steal the shoes off their feet. Now, that's not the bizarre part, because I can understand that. Even though I cannot fathom $10,000 sneakers, if you were to tell me that, hey, this guy is wearing a pair of $10,000 sneakers, then I would knock him out, and I would take his sneakers too. And I would run to the local pawn shop, and I would get whatever I could for him. But it wasn't enough for them to take off the $10,000 Dior's. Not only do they remove the shoes, they stole their socks. They stole the socks. Maybe they were Dior socks. I don't know, but they stole the socks right off their feet. Eddie Kingston stuffed them into his pocket. Now, I don't want to know what weird, fucked up fetish he has. It's none of my business. But they stole the socks off of the Young Bucks. Like those little green alien guys stole the socks off Al Bundy's feet on that one episode of Married with Children. Remember the little green alien guys who showed up one day? And they used Al's socks as fuel to get back to their home planet. And he would tell his wife, and his wife would wake up, and of course they wouldn't be there, and she would think he was going insane, but then they would come back again the next night. They would pose, and they would take pictures with him. Remember? That's one of my favorite episodes of the show. That's what they did. Like little green alien men. They're stealing socks now off the Young Bucks. Anyway, next week, Dry Chicken says, Eddie loves feet. Hey, more power to you. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but the socks. Why the socks? Is there a sock fetish that he has? Next week, it's a special Friday episode. It is a special Friday episode of Dynamite next week. TNT title on the line. MIRO defends against Dante Martin. Hangman Page takes on Joey Janela. Cody Rhodes and Anthony Ogogo will have themselves a weigh-in. Jade Cargill will have an open challenge. Evil Uno and Stu Grayson of the Dark Order take on Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. The Inner Circle, they'll have AEW will have a celebration of the greatest moments of the Inner Circle. I assume that's some kind of video package. Darby Allin one-on-one against Cesar Bonani. Orange Cassidy will respond to Kenny Omega's offer to defer his title shot. They'll have a celebration of Hikaru Shida's first anniversary. Her final anniversary as the AEW Women's Champion. And they will have an announcement about the buy-in match, what that will be for Double or Nothing. And they also mentioned that at Double or Nothing in the Casino Battle Royal, Paul White will be joining the commentary team for that match. So they're planning a lot of stuff for this Friday episode of Dynamite next week. I will remind you, there will be no Dynamite review next Wednesday. There will be no Dynamite review next Friday. I potentially might have a live stream maybe on Saturday, the 29th, maybe earlier in the day, possibly. I will let you guys know. But if not, we'll just save everything for the podcast. Episode 706 that Sunday. So you'll want to join me for that. Let us take a look at the Twitter poll. I'm going to get to your super chats here in a second. So if you have questions for me, comments, if you just want to support the stream, I certainly appreciate all of the support. Poll for tonight, 78.4% thumbs up, 21.6% thumbs down. The Twitter audience has made their voices heard so far. So go vote. At Solomonster is the place to go for that. If you guys would like to chime in what you thought of tonight's show, send me a tweet. I'd love to hear from you. So let us take a look at your messages and find out what you guys thought of this show tonight. We'll back up here to Naef. Our good friend Naef. I don't know if he's in the chat right now, but Naef dropping some love. $15 super chat. Hashway, I see you in the chat. What's going on, Hashway? I know it's probably pretty early or pretty late where you are. Good to hear from you. Naef, thank you. Thank you for the support. Isaac, will you be looking to read Jon Moxley's new book? That's right, Jon Moxley has a new book coming out in November called Mox. The idea of a Jon Moxley written book kind of scares me. I don't know, I just kind of feel like, who knows what's going through that guy's head at any moment. I might check that out, yeah. Especially, and if there's an audiobook version, I might even be able to get you guys a free audiobook. If it comes out on Audible, that'd be cool. Let's see. Lord Frieza, much love. Solomonster, $5 from Lord Frieza. Thank you, Lord Frieza. Ryan Spies, Anthony Ogogo is the greatest babyface, he says, in wrestling history. He is to me, well, I don't know about history, but in this feud, he is the babyface in this feud. Ryan Spies again, Varsity Blondes are a reference to the Hollywood Blondes, so naturally Brian Pillman Jr. is the new Brian Pillman Sr., so by default, Griff Garrison is the new Stone Cold. Well, he's got long hair like Stone Cold. I mean, Stone Cold's hair used to be, it wasn't that long. But, yeah, I wouldn't put that kind of pressure on poor Griff Garrison. Paul White is leaving commentary at the end of the Battle Royal because he'll be the final guy in. You heard it here first. You know what? Not a bad prediction. Not a bad prediction at all. Maybe Christian thinks he has the Battle Royal one, and then in comes Paul White. We end up with Big Show against Christian at the end of the Battle Royal, and Big Show throws Christian out of the ring. You know what? The fact that he's joining on commentary for that match, they always leave one spot open for a surprise entrant. I'll bet you anything if they do that this year, he is going to be the surprise entrant. I think you're right. I think you're right. Jacob Donnelly with the $5. Is it weird that every time Jake Hager speaks, I think to myself, how much is Solomonster cringing now? Yeah, I never know what to expect when this guy opens his mouth. You just never know. It's not his strong suit, but tonight he was okay. Let's see. Oz and Glorious with the $5 super chat. Thank you, Oz. Love the show and stoked for Double or Nothing. Cannot hang tonight, but much love to you, Solomonster, and the chat crew. So shout out to Oz and Glorious. Quentis Brown with the $5. With today's news and Dynamite, today was a good day for AEW. Yeah, I said if you're an AEW fan, you should be very pleased, I think, by today's news. Because it shows that Warner is not running away from them. Warner is pretty well invested in them. And if they got 7 or 8 figures out of this deal above and beyond whatever they're already making, that's more money that they can use to sign new talent. They're going to have the extra hour of television now, or, do, whatever, reinvest that into the company and reinvest that into the product. To me, that can't be anything but a good thing. CJ LaChapelle, one of our mods. I now referee, he says, for Nick Patrick. I don't want to come off as a mark. How many shows should I wait before asking him for his autograph? Autographs are so passé. I'd much rather have a photo than an autograph. Go for the photo. And you can ask for a photo anytime. But if you want an autograph, I'd wait a little bit. Wait a little bit when the time is right. But to me, unless it's like, I don't know. I mean, unless it's like a major star. To me, it's all about the photo now more than it is about autographs. I have some cool autograph. I have Vince McMahon's autograph. I don't have any checks with his name on it. Shocking, I know. I'm so nice to him every week. But no, get a photo. Get a photo and then tweet it to me. Photo of CJ and Nick Patrick. That'd be cool to see. Rodimus Prime with the $25 super chat drop. Thought on the whole, it was a decent show. Double or Nothing is shaping up to be an awesome card. Well, big difference between last year and this year? People. Loud people in the audience. Brian Becerra with the $5. I thought it was just an okay show tonight. Peace, Solomonster. Food Hive. TBS has Conan and American Dad. They don't have Conan for much longer, right? Isn't Conan ending his show? I thought Conan was ending his show. Is it this year or is it next year? But I know his TBS show is coming to an end. James Kowaleski. James Kowaleski. What happens to the TNT title when AEW hits TBS? It'll be rebranded. Yeah, I said earlier, just make it a TV title. That's what I would do. Alex Jimenez. Alex, remind me, because I actually have a few friends I know with the same last name as you, and they say it differently. One person is Jimenez, the other person is Jimenez. I usually say Jimenez, so if that's wrong, email me and let me know. But Alex with the $18 super chat. I honestly never liked Rusev, even during the Rusev Day phase. Now that he has turned into this destroyer in AEW, I am starting to like him a lot more. Well, wouldn't you know? It's funny how that works, right? When you take a guy who is supposed to, he's meant to be an ass kicker, not an ass kisser. And now you're seeing him for what I think he can really bring to the table. He comes in and he's just this beast who comes in and just tears through the roster. Who can stop him, right? That's the story. Who can stop MIRO? Quintus Brown, what does the USA Network have on WWE besides WWE show? They have nothing. I've talked about that before too. The USA Network has nothing. They had Suits, and I think that just ended. They have The Sinner. I like The Sinner. That's that show with Bill Pullman. So we'll put The Sinner on there. I take that back. They have The Sinner. The USA Network used to have a whole bunch of different shows. They used to have fucking Duckman. Silk Stockings, La Femme Nikita, right? White Collar, Monk, Pacific Blue, Murder, She Wrote, reruns. They used to have stuff. Remember Pac Blue? They used to have stuff. They don't have anything now. They have The Sinner. That's about all they have. Hulkling93, with the suits and shades, I realize how much Kenny Omega resembles Larry Sweeney. There is definitely a resemblance there. There is definitely, in the curly hair and everything, there's definitely a resemblance there. Dry chicken without flavor. AEW is going to lose the interest of the NBA audience, which is unfortunate. I hope Shaq makes another appearance. We got Magician Sapphire with the $10 super chat. I love me some Sova, said Psych. Is another USA Network show. Yeah, I mean, there was Psych and there was, what was that show? Didn't last very long. I was at a Monday Night Raw where they actually had the two stars of the show. Good versus Evil, G versus E, right? Did that even last one season? USA used to have a show called Happy Hour that would go on after Raw with Amit Zappa and his brother. They had the Ultimate Fighter, right? No, they didn't have the Ultimate Fighter. Spike did. Spike had the Ultimate Fighter. Yeah, I remember Happy Hour. They would always try to put something on after Raw with the hope that the wrestling audience would stick around. The thing about the wrestling audience is the wrestling audience don't give a fuck about anything other than wrestling. When it comes to these networks, I mean, they might watch sports. They have their favorite sports teams, but they're not going to stick around in most cases and watch your stupid, shitty show. Like, they're there to watch Raw, or they're there to watch, SmackDown or Dynamite, and then it's like, peace out. They're loyal to wrestling, and it's, I think, very hard to convince them to stick around for anything that is not wrestling when wrestling is over. That's why USA used to run through so many of these post-Raw shows at 11 o'clock every week. It was like they were always coming up with something new. But anyway, Magician Sapphire is up next with a $10 super chat drop. I am more curious if the Warner Media Discovery will impact AEW, but TNT can still play encore showings of AEW after the move happens. Yeah, there's no indication of that. I think it sounds like TNT is completely getting out of the wrestling thing outside of those 4 quarterly specials. Doesn't mean it can't change, but I don't see them doing replays. Spider Sense with the $2. Do you think Mox and Kingston versus Young Bucks will steal the show? Well, let's see. I'm trying to think of the entire card. And I'm thinking Stadium Stampede will probably be fun. I thought last year it was fun. I think Omega, Pac, and Orange Cassidy could have a pretty kick-ass match. The tag team title match, I don't know if I want to say steal the show. I don't think it's going to steal the show. I think it'll be good. I don't think it's going to steal the show. I think it might be the world title match. Yeah. Do you think... Oh, I said that already. NS Andrew, are you going to sign that contract for Mr. Callis? I'm thinking about it. He gave me a week to think about it, all right? Give me some time here, all right? Give me some time here. Jolly Burgos. Black women in wrestling continuing to kill it. You love to see it. Also, go Braves. Dry chicken without flavor. AEW Blood and Guts match is going to set wrestling back 30 years. WWE, hold my beer. I don't want to talk about that again. Dr. NXT Scorpio, wake me up before you go. That one match is such a no-go. Sorry, I will leave now. Doesn't feel like a pay-per-view match, though, doesn't it? Really, it doesn't. Doesn't feel like a big enough match to feature in like a prominent position like that on this show. But again, I think part of that is just not knowing what to expect out of Ogogo. Still seems very, very early. Dr. NXT Scorpio again. As long as Stadium Stampede doesn't end up like the Saudi shows and their terrible sequels, I am fine with it. Jared M with the $35 super chat. What's going on, Jared? Jared's an old school guy. Does Jared like Stadium Stampede? I don't know. If I had to take a guess, I don't remember if he told me what he thought of last year's Stadium Stampede. I'm gonna say he probably liked it. He and I think alike on a lot of these things. I didn't like all of the elements of it. Some of the Matt Hardy stuff, but it was fun. Highlight, of course, was watching Sammy run for his life from the horse as Hangman Page rode that horse down the football field. BW with the $5. Do you think the Warner Media Discovery deal will affect AEW programming in the near future? And do you think the move is because of the NBA and the NHL? No, to your first question, not in the near future. And yes, absolutely 100%. It was the primary reason why this is happening. Without that, I don't think it happens. I think it stays right where it is on TNT. Jared said no. Apparently he did not like the match. Well, I was wrong. Dr. NXT Scorpio, is it just me who noticed, but did the Young Bucks get up rather quickly after Moxley and Eddie put them in sleeper holds? They did, but I just chalked that up to the fact that, hey, we're running out of time on the show. You need to wake up and you need to sell the fact that they stole your shoes and your socks. So because time was running out, they had no choice. I mean, nobody... Look, shit like that, you know what? I'm so numb to it at this point that it is what it is. They do this in AEW a lot. They do this in WWE. What are you going to do? You know, I've seen guys take abuse far worse than a sleeper hold, and they're back the very next week. Look at Jericho! He fell off the top of the cage. His arm is in a cast. He didn't miss a single week of television. So as far as selling and not selling, I didn't even think about that here because I don't expect people to sell stuff anymore. I just don't. It's unfortunate, but that's kind of just the way things are now. And on these shows, things are moving at such a rapid pace, and you're on live television, although this week it wasn't live, that there's no time, apparently. There's no time for selling anymore. Dr. NXT Scorpio. Thank you again for your $4 super chat. I appreciate it. I appreciate the good doctor. Who we got next? Who we got? We got BW again. The only preemptiveness I see with AEW on TBS next year is because of the NCAA and MLB playoffs being the reason for that happening. Yeah, I said this earlier. I talked about this entire thing at the beginning, and I said there may be preemptions from Major League Baseball, but the expectation is that there'll be fewer of them than there would be if they were on TNT. And the general manager of TNT and TBS outright said earlier today when he was interviewed after this story broke, he admitted that the NHL package and the NBA preemptions, all of this played a major role in them making this move. So yes, that is why this happened. Were it not for these sports preemptions, Dynamite would still be on TNT next year and the year after that. This is the main reason why this show is being moved to TBS. They're not just moving it because oh, well, we just feel like moving it to TBS. No, there's a reason for it. Dry Chicken, back in 2019. Remember when Chris Jericho kept saying, "You're welcome," in his promos on Dynamite and on social media? I'm predicting Jericho at Double or Nothing 2021 will say, "You're welcome," as payback to MJF. Well, if the Inner Circle is going to win, they're going to get their win back. And the last image we had at Blood and Guts was him pushing Jericho off the cage and then saying thank you. I think you're right. I think if Inner Circle wins this time, the final image will be Jericho saying you're welcome. Ryan Spies, Cody also has a bad shoulder, so yes, he is likely to go away for a little bit. I feel like Cody's had a bad shoulder now for a few months. I think the bad shoulder predates even the Shaq match, I believe. Had a little tear in his shoulder, I think, right? It was like a late... Was it a rotator cuff injury? See, I know Kenny Omega had a labrum tear. He's been working with a tear in his shoulder now for a few months. So I don't know if he's fully recovered or if he still, has a tear in his shoulder or not. I mean, that could have been disastrous considering they had just put the belt on him. Sir Iz Manson, hi Solomonster, how do you feel like making your wrestling debut in a death match? Also, keep up the good work. I learned my lesson from David Arquette, who took a death match against Nick Gage. I have no interest in that whatsoever. I think I'll pass on the death match. I'll call one, but I will not participate in one. Food Hive, since Dynamite is on Friday, you've got 9 days. 9 days! 9 days until Dynamite next week. That's right. Dried chicken without flavor. John Moxley and Eddie Kingston were stealing the Young Bucks sneakers like Ezal to taking Debo's sneakers from Friday. Friday. I didn't know where you were going with that. BW, you hear about that one NXT referee that, well, there was more than one NXT referee let go today. Yeah, I will, I'll have all the information on that on Sunday's podcast, so you'll want to tune in for that. Robert R, look at this, dropping $19.99 via Super Chat. Robert, thank you. It's very kind of you. Dry chicken without flavor, I predict that Bryan Danielson will not show up at Double or Nothing. Cool. I predict that tomorrow I will not fuck a supermodel. What other very predictable things can we come up with here? Let's all in the chat name one very predictable thing that will not happen tomorrow, that we will not be doing tomorrow. I've told you mine. Although maybe I should be more optimistic. You never know. Ruben Carrion. Has your brother ever opened the forbidden door on you when you are with a lady friend? No, because I have a lock on my door. So, I'm the smart one. I went out one day, because the door actually didn't have a lock on it, as many bedrooms do not, and I went to Home Depot one day and bought a $10 doorknob with a lock, and I changed the doorknob myself. So, the answer is no. What a weird question. But Ruben, I give you points for coming up with something creative. I've never gotten that question before. Christopher Jazzcat. Oh, I like that name. Christopher Jazzcat. What an interesting name. Hey, Solomonster, longtime fan. Omega and Callis We Care thing was too real. Very reminiscent of how corporations exploit employees and pretend to care. Well, that's why they did it. They're playing off that whole theme. And their heels. So it kind of makes sense. Uffman Entertainment. Conan is ending his show on TBS this month and will be moving to HBO Max. So I was of the impression that he was just stopping his show, period. He wasn't going to be doing a television show anymore. So is he just doing the show on a different service? I thought the whole thing was ending. Just he wasn't doing shows anymore. So I didn't know he was moving it to HBO Max. Dry Chicken, Hikaru Shida will blank the women's championship at Double or Nothing. I could go a whole bunch of different ways with that, but I'd get myself in trouble. She's going to lose the women's championship at Double or Nothing. I just filled in the blank for you there. J-Dub, I see your comment. No comment. Dry Chicken, in my opinion, Sammy Guevara's vlog is starting to become more popular than being the Elite. You know why? Because Cody is on there. Cody is not on being the Elite anymore, but he's on Sammy's vlog. You know what that means? Uh-oh. Trouble in paradise. CJ LaChapelle, what are your thoughts on Tony La Russa saying batters should not swing if the count is 3-0? I think batters should swing in whatever situation where they feel like they have the best chance of hitting the ball. And if they have a feeling that their pitch is coming, then swing the bat. I don't put a whole lot of stock in anything Tony La Russa says. I can't believe Tony La Russa is even employed by any team right now. So I don't put a lot of stock in what Tony La Russa has to say these days. Food Hive, my Rangers gave up another no-hitter to the bum-ass Yankees. Is there room on the Mets bandwagon? We got plenty of room because all of our guys are on the injury list. So come on down. We need bodies here. We gotta fill some spots. Robert R with another $19.99. On my way out for the night, but wanted to send my support. Few things to stay consistent on a normal basis, and one of those things is the live streams. Appreciate it, Solomonster. Well, Robert, I thank you for the support, and I thank you for the kind words. And if you are going out for the night, I don't know where you're headed, but have a good time. Sounds like Robert is getting ready to enjoy the night. That used to be me 10 years ago. What time is it? 12:03? I'd be pre-gaming right now. Now, if it wasn't for this stream, I'd be fucking passed out in this chair behind me. This is very comfortable because I have a headrest on it. I could sleep in this chair if I wanted to. I've thought about it. You know what's weird? This chair, I love this chair. This chair can recline back. It can recline back far enough that it's almost like a bed. And I absolutely believe that if I wanted to, I could sleep in this chair. But I have the chair in the exact position, the exact height that I want it to be. And I'm just afraid that if I do anything to change the position of this chair, I will not be able to get it back to the position I want it to be. So I have not changed the position on this chair in about a year. Even though it can do lots of different things. I don't want to ruin the position that I have it in. You know what they need to do? They need to make smart chairs. Everything else is electronic and digital. Why can't the chairs be smart as well? You push a button, it puts it right back in the exact position it was in before. That's what I want to do. I want to push a button and I want the chair to be right back where it was before. Turtlehead. Do you think the move to TBS will affect the blood and guts aspect of their show? Also, 24-hour A Christmas Story marathon is a must-watch every year. I don't think, I mean, in terms of standards and practices and stuff like that, I mean, I don't think it's going to make a difference. Whatever's allowable on TNT, I don't see why it would be any different on TBS, honestly. Branch Oak. Buy, sell on Starks, Guevara, Darby, Jungle Boy. Gotta sell 3. Gotta sell 3 of them. So basically, you're asking me to keep 1. You're asking me to keep 1 and sell 3. That's tough. That's tough. Honestly, for me, it's probably going to come down to Starks and Darby. And then if I had to keep one and get rid of the other, it's tough. It's tough. I mean, you put me on the spot. I'm probably buying on Darby and selling the other three, but for me it comes down to Darby and Ricky. But all those guys, all four of those guys are part of the future this company needs to build around. That's a hard one, though. I don't want to sell any of them. Dried chicken, the Knicks are back in the NBA playoffs. Your brother does not have to turn heel on them and join the Brooklyn Nets bandwagon. No, he's very excited. He's watching every game. The inevitable heartbreak will be coming. But no, he's having a blast. I haven't seen him this excited about the Knicks in a long time. Food Hive. I cooked Salisbury steak, baked potato, and stuffed jalapenos for dinner tonight. What say you? Well, I don't do the jalapenos. Anything overly spicy like that is... I don't like anything that's overly spicy, but even if I did, I can't have anything spicy if I'm going to record or if I'm going to stream, because it completely fucks my voice. So I wouldn't be having jalapenos regardless. The rest of that, though, Salisbury steak and baked potato sounds very good. I had chicken wings tonight. So we both ate well tonight. Eminem 200 183. I'm going to feel old, but USA Network was the home of the Cartoon Express and the pre-GSN game show Block. Rest in peace, Paul Mooney. That is from Eminem. Pedro Velasquez with the $5. JR is the greatest of all time, but sometimes his commentary distracts me from matches on AEW. What do you think of JR's work nowadays? It is not the JR of old. He is older. You can't expect that as people age, that they're going to sound the same, that they're going to have the same energy. He is not the same announcer that he used to be. But I think when JR is on his game, he is still very good. He definitely has his moments. And I think that he has the ability to contribute in a productive way, but just not on a weekly basis. I think that's really the issue. I think someone like Jim Ross would be perfect for, and we see them use him sometimes for sit-down interviews. He did one with Britt Baker a few weeks ago. But stuff like that, special features like that, and for guest commentary spots on big shows, I think would be the best role for him. The weekly television, though, I mean, it grinds you down, you know? It just grinds you down. It's not an easy thing to do. And he is a lot older than he used to be. He's been, you know, just physically and everything, he's been through a lot. We got Coggies with the $5. What's going on, Coggies? Hey, Solomonster, just finished the show and I loved it. A no-no was the weakest part, and I continue to not care about the Nightmare Factory stuff. Cheers. It is the weakest stuff on the show. See Moonsalt. Tribal Chief gimmick is stale. I missed the big dog. And as he says that, look at what popped up. The Tribal Queen is on our screen right now. All hail. All hail. The Tribal Queen. She's a lady. All right, let's turn that music off. Oh, whoa, whoa, she's a lady. Thank you, C. Moonsalt. That is certainly an opinion, but I think it is one that you are alone in right now. Magician Sapphire. Magician Sapphire says, if Moxley Kingston does win the title, who do you see them feuding with besides the Bucks? I don't know. I mean, if they win the belts, whatever. They don't have to, you know, they don't have to immediately transition into a program. They could defend it a little bit, and then they can end up feuding with somebody. And who that team would be? I don't know. I don't have the tag team roster in front of me. Penta and Phoenix, I mean, they're not even really teaming at the moment. Come to think of it, we haven't seen them on television in a few weeks. I don't know. I don't even know if they're in the country right now. Maybe they're back in Mexico. I don't know. I don't know what their status is. But I do hope they win. I am picking them to win. Rizzo with the $20 super chat. Sorry, I missed most of the show, but I have a question. You had Mama Monster on the show. We hear the famous Papa Monster phone call every opening. Why hasn't the brother Solomonster had a cameo? Because he doesn't want to. I've asked him. He's a very introverted person. And so maybe that's part of it, but I've asked him. I asked him once or twice. He said no. I never asked him again. So I leave him alone. But maybe one day, right? You never know. Never say never. Maybe he's in a good mood one day. I float the idea. I don't know what I would have him on to do exactly. I'm certainly open to it, but I don't think he's really all that interested in that. Dr. NXT Scorpio, buy or sell the Little Rascals or the Goonies? The Goonies. Of course. And finally here, fried chicken without flavor. Jack Daniel's whiskey for Double or Nothing. I'll try my best to be on the post show, giving you the heads up. Are you going to be at the show? Or are you just drinking at home? You're going to join us in the chat. I know I haven't done calls in several weeks. Perhaps we'll do calls on the Double or Nothing post show stream. Are you insinuating about calling in? Because I don't know if we'll be doing calls for sure. But if you are going, then definitely let me know how the experience is. I'm jealous. I know a whole bunch of people who are going to the show. I will be watching from home. From the comfort of my, of this chair. I'll be right here, watching it all. Here are the poll results. Double or Nothing coming up in a few weeks, but first, we had Dynamite tonight for May 19th. 78% thumbs up, 21, almost 22% thumbs down. So please always remember that you can vote in these polls if you follow along on Twitter, @Solomonster. That is where all of this voting is taking place. You take a look at some of the action that's going on in the chat. Say hello to all the people in there. We always have a good community of people having fun in the chat every week. It's like a little family we've created for ourselves here. A little dysfunctional family. Paul Heyman with a $2 super chat. Can Miz's injury open the door for Johnny Mundo? Not under that name, but yeah, I would love. I mean, this would be a great opportunity for John Morrison to finally get a singles push. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the whole Johnny drip thing. It's just kind of dumb to me. I can't take him seriously that way. He's like a cartoon character. But John Morrison has not had a proper singles push since coming back to the company. So if there is a silver lining in this Miz injury, it's the fact that maybe now he can actually get a proper push as a singles, on the Raw brand. I'd like to see that. Whoa, look at this. Look who is showing up at the end of the stream. Look at that. Solomonster Mania running wild. Professor John Gotti doing a run-in at the end of the stream. Look at this. Doing a run-in at the end of the stream, dropping $100 in Super Chat. What is going on, John Gotti? Haven't heard from him in a few weeks, several weeks actually. That was out of nowhere, like an RKO. Dropping $100 here on the stream. Wow. I was not expecting. There he is in the chat. Everybody say hello to the professor. Everybody say hello to the professor joining us tonight. That's right. Dr. NXT Scorpio in the chat says, thank you, Jesus, for the Professor John guy. I gotta thank the man himself, right? For the super chat. Oh man, that's right. I forgot to play his theme music. We got to get him some theme music. The only thing is, I can't play his theme music if I don't know that it's coming in. Unfortunately, any theme music I would play, though, YouTube would not like that very much. Juan Ocampo also dropped a super chat. Has Pat sent you love back? I tagged him and yes, I saw that. No, he has not. Pat McAfee does not care. But thank you for trying. I appreciate it. You don't have to tag people. It's fine. Thank you, Juan. It's the thought that counts. Look at this. Everybody's showing the professor some love in the chat. I'd want to play like the Godfather theme for him. I don't mean the WWE Godfather, Pimpin' Ain't Easy. I mean, although I that might fit too. But I'd like to play the real Godfather theme whenever John Gotti joins us in the chat, but there's no way YouTube would ever allow that, so it's too bad. Mr. Gotti expects you to repay him one day for his generosity. Don't expect anything free from them Mafia boys. Oh, me. You guys are too much. You guys are too much. Now, of course, we have reached that point in the stream where we do a little something. I know you guys know what we do here at the end of every Dynamite stream. Courtesy of our good little boy, Zinfamous HD. I meant to say good friend for whatever reason. I called him a good boy. I called him a good boy like I'm his fucking father or something. Or he's my fucking dog. Good boy. Good boy. Zinfamous HD. Stop the gift twice, and that is the main event of WrestleMania. I have had some horrendous luck with this. So let's hope this is one of our good weeks in trying to pick a match here. So let's see. And the first person we pick is Randall K. Orton. Not bad. Randy Orton, no stranger to WrestleMania main events in the past. And let's see who Randy Orton will be facing at WrestleMania. Randy Orton going one-on-one with MIRO. Randy Orton against the TNT champion at WrestleMania. But wait. Teddy Long has come out and has said that it will now be a triple threat match. So we get to pick one more person. We're going to have ourselves a triple threat WrestleMania main event. And the third participant in this match will be Mustafa Ali. Orton, MIRO, and Ali in the main event of WrestleMania. There you go, folks. There is your WrestleMania main event. Hope you enjoy it. See, that wouldn't be a bad match. Just not in the WrestleMania main event. But that could be a hell of a main event on main event. Maybe a SmackDown. Ali, yeah, in the chat, Dick Tickles, Ali taking the pin in that match. I think that goes without saying. Yeah, no, see, everyone's agreeing. Not a bad match. We didn't do badly with that match choice this week. Exactly. A great SmackDown main event. That's right. That's right. Well, since there won't be a Dynamite stream next week, I guess we'll do the WrestleMania thing again in 2 weeks when we're back here. Dr. NXT Scorpio with the Undertaker Bailey buddy super chat. Can't wait to see this rematch on Raw on Monday, and then again and again and again. Oh, man. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the stream. We covered all the TV news at the beginning, so if you tuned in late, we had a whole discussion about all the breaking news of the day on the TV situation with AEW, what it all means, what it does not mean. I'm going to have a lot more on that on Sunday on the podcast. That'll be episode 705. I'm already in the middle of working on the history segment. There's a lot. There is a lot to cover this week, and so we will try to get to all of it this weekend. Those of you who have joined this past week as members here on YouTube, man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. You can hit the join button down below and become a channel member, which entitles you to certain perks and retro audio that is going up constantly. Other new features that are coming up very soon. We had our first Q&A a few weeks ago. There's another one that's going to be coming up very soon where I'm answering member-only questions on video. So a lot of really cool stuff. Or if you just want to support the channel, there's 2 membership tiers. Feel free to click the join button down below. It'll give you all the information on what you can expect. And you'll get those nifty little badges next to your name. So you can do that. And I will... again, let you guys know what my plans are as far as Dynamite next week. I will not be live on Friday night. I could potentially be live next weekend on Saturday to do predictions and a review. But we'll see. We'll definitely be back in 2 weeks, though. Well, I guess it's a little less than 2 weeks, right? Double or Nothing is on May 30th. So what is that, 10 days? We'll be here live, Double or Nothing, as soon as the pay-per-view is over. Join me here on the channel. We'll go over the entire event. And that's all I got, guys. So thank you again for the super chats. Be well, stay safe. All the super chatters tonight, including the good professor. Always good to hear from you here on the stream. I hope you're doing well. I appreciate the love more than you know. And I will see you guys back here at some point next week to talk more AEW. So until then, take care, guys. Have yourselves a great week. See you then.